You don't think a young girl could ever like a repulsive little scab like...
Well, hello everyone. I'm Bruce, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about my girlfriend and our relationship, which some people might find interesting because I'm 61 and my girlfriend is 24. So obviously that's quite an age gap.
Mum was right, that is one hell of an age gap.
So 10 years ago, I found myself single in Thailand.
So you're a single man again.
I had 3 girlfriends over the past several years. One of them was in her very late 30s. She's in her mid 40s now. Another one was quite young as well. She was 18 when I met her, and we were together for 3.5 years. And then I had my last Thai girlfriend who was 34. She was a lawyer. We were also together for about a year. So those were my relationship experiences. And of course, met and dated a lot of girls.
Age is just a number.
Now, more about the age difference. The Philippines is rather unique in that many girls don't care about age. If you go to the Philippines, you'll find a lot of older Western men with quite young Filipino girlfriends. I would say they're not all like my situation where my girlfriend actually is educated and had a job. But they don't care that much about age. If she cared a lot about age, she would have very happily moved on to her Italian engineer boss who was 20 years younger than me. But she chose me, so that's great. For me, I don't care that much about age. I've dated older women. The problem, especially in the Philippines, is that if you date a woman who is in her 30s or 40s, she's almost definitely got several kids. And I didn't want to just assume a bunch of children at that time. So in the Philippines, for me, I was kind of trapped into dating younger girls. But you know, I've lived in Thailand for a long time. In Thailand, those kind of relationships are not quite as common. In Thailand, if you're over 40, girls kind of think you're old and they're not going to date you. There are a lot of older women in Thailand who are single, a lot, divorced or never married and don't have kids. There are a lot of those women. Unfortunately, most of them don't speak English. So unless your Thai is really good, then that's a problem. And there are others that do speak English. A lot of them are like underemployed massage therapists who are looking for a boyfriend to basically support them. Things like that. Not very educated, not really, I don't know, long-term relationship material, I guess you could say. You know, I did meet and date several girls here who spoke English. They weren't easy to find. I would also say that in those particular cases, my first girlfriend, who was almost 40 when we started dating my second girlfriend, who was in her mid 30s, very well educated, good jobs, doing very well in their lives, but we just didn't click. I mean, from the selfish side, I could say I found that they were quite annoying in the end. Maybe they felt the same with me. I don't know, but you know, it obviously wasn't going to work long term. And the longer we were together, the more issues there were, which is just the opposite of what I find in this current relationship.
So be prepared, be enthusiastic, and leave your bullshit attitude and baggage at the door, because we don't need it.
Okay, late addition to the video, but it'll still be in the middle. But there's one thing about meeting older women in Asia. First of all, it's not easy to do. The younger girls are out and on social media and things like that, easier to find. Older women in their 30s and 40s generally are not out that much. They have, I guess you could say, stable lives or situations where they're not out as much, harder to find. But one thing about all of us is that as we get older, we have baggage. We have things in our past and our lives that make us less easy to live with, less easy to deal with, less easy to be in relationships with. I mentioned children already, especially in the Philippines. That's very common. Most women after they're in their mid-20s have children. Okay, that's baggage. But I would honestly say that from my two girlfriends that I've had post-divorce that were a little bit older, they were well educated, they had good jobs, and they had been single for several years. And after I started relationships with them, sadly, I realized that there were reasons that they were single. They had baggage. Younger girls have less baggage, which makes them more attractive to us. We may have our own baggage. We're not going to worry about our own baggage. They have to worry about that. But younger women in Asia just have less baggage, which is a good reason to potentially start a relationship with them. And it's a good reason to be very wary of the 30, 40-year-old Asian woman who has been single for several years. There's often a reason.
People grow together, they grow apart. It's always shifting.
Okay, I know there are some guys who are really crazy about younger girls. I don't understand that so much. The most important thing is compatibility. Do you get along? Do you grow together? Okay, I'll just use my sister and brother-in-law, who will eventually watch this video, as an example. She and my brother-in-law ride Harley-Davidson motorcycles together. I guarantee that 30 years ago, 20 years ago, she had no intention of ever becoming an avid Harley girl, okay? He goes to Oregon Duck games with her. He is a Oregon State Beaver. Deep in his heart, he still has a hate for the Ducks. But he does that for her, and they have grown together. That's true in any relationship, right? When you first meet, you may not have a lot in common, but even if you do, long term, you're going to have to develop things that you can do together. You have to develop things that you enjoy together. So that doesn't matter that much about age. It matters a lot more about compatibility and willingness to develop those activities together that you enjoy.
How did you meet her?
So let's talk about how I ended up meeting my current girlfriend. In 2022, I decided to take a solo motorcycle tour of the Philippines. I'd been to the Philippines 5 or 6 times. Some long stories about that with my mom, and some history in the Philippines, but took 4 or 5 trips to the Philippines. Had dated several girls there, but never had a girlfriend there. But I was interested in meeting a Filipina. I thought maybe culturally it was compatible. So I decided to go on my motorcycle trip. And during that time, I really wasn't in relationship mode, because I traveled 20,000 kilometers from the north to the south, every city for just 2 or 3 days. So I met a lot of girls, dated a lot of girls, but never planned to start any relationship there. But I started chatting with my current girlfriend. She's from Baler, Aurora. And okay, because I'm a shallow guy, I really think blonde, Asian, thin girls are super hot. And she was blonde and thin. And even though I'd already been to Baler, Aurora, I decided to go back. So in December of 2022, I went back to Baler and I met her, and we spent 5 days together. We had a great time. She checked a lot of boxes for me. Number 1, she didn't have any kids. Number 2, And if you don't know, in the Philippines, a lot of girls have children very young, and it's almost unheard of for a girl to be in her mid-20s and not have kids. Number two, she was educated. She had finished her degree in electrical engineering. And number three, she didn't beg for money. In fact, when I was going back to visit her, I offered to buy her some gifts, bring her something, and she just was adamant that she didn't want anything. Unlike a lot of girls in the Philippines that you meet online, they're kind of hinting or begging for money or asking to borrow money. This girl was just not interested in my money at all. She was very, very adamant. She didn't want any money from me. So of course, those were all good things. So I decided to make a special trip to go see her. And during my 5 days in Baler, I had a great time. We had a very nice time together. I met her family. We spent a lot of time just hanging out with her family, spending time in the community in the area. Baler is a nice little beach town. We had this big traditional Filipino feast on banana leaves, and they like roasted huge fish over the fire. It was pretty amazing, and I really had a great time. And while I don't really didn't want or don't like long distance relationships, we decided that we had a great time together, and we were going to be kind of starting a relationship at that time. Now, something else that's interesting about my girlfriend, by the way, her name is Shins. Well, that's her nickname, Shins. She had been very determined not to have any boyfriends or any relationships until she finished her university. So she finished her college, studying electrical engineering, and she was finally ready to date. So I was basically her first date. And I think in the Philippines, that's kind of a special bond, a special relationship for more traditional girls. And so we started this relationship, but because she was extremely inexperienced at relationships, there were a lot of issues. And we kind of had a little breakup a few months later. And during that time, she continued to message me, asked me to come back together with her, and I basically just ignored her because I thought, we just have to move on. This didn't work out. It was just not blaming anyone, it just didn't work out, so moving on. At the same time, she was working as an electrical engineer, and her big boss, who owned the company she was working for, was an Italian guy, 20 years younger than me, apparently handsome. I've never met him, I've never seen him, but he found out that his staff wasn't showing up to work because she was brokenhearted, and he took a very strong interest. And he was like messaging her and trying to meet her all the time and making up reasons why she had to go to Manila and spend a couple of days. And all that time, I wasn't even talking to her, but she wasn't interested in anyone new at that time. Maybe if things had gone on that way for longer, she would have finally broken down and given up on me, but she didn't. And so my experience in the Philippines was that I was traveling around and meeting lots of girls, and most of them were the same, and a lot of them were nice, but a lot of them were not educated or didn't have any hopes of education, so they were going to be completely dependent. A lot of them were always asking for money and hinting about needing money and asking to borrow money, things like that. And a lot of them have kids. So many people, so many single moms in the Philippines. So I didn't really get serious about any other girl. So I decided to give Shins another chance, and we got back together, and things went very well. I think her earlier experiences caused her to mature a little bit, and we have been getting along very well ever since. Eventually, I had to decide what I was going to do. I could either move to the Philippines or invite her to come and stay with me in Thailand. I chose to invite her to come stay with me in Thailand. She can work online, so she's been working online, and we've been living together now for just about a year. Everything's been great. You know, like any relationships, there are occasional hiccups, but honestly, I'm very lucky to have a very nice, kind, sweet, honest girlfriend. And yes, it's, yeah, jackpot for me. In the Philippines, according to Philippine culture, women, especially wives, are there to support and help their husbands. It's very ingrained in their cultures. They really learn and train how to be good wives. Maybe similar to the way things were in America 70, 80 years ago. I don't know. But, you know, they really believe in that kind of interrelationship between husbands and wives. So another reason why a big age gap isn't a problem is because, generally speaking, Asian women, Filipino women, Filipina are really looking for someone to be their husband and their leader and the person who can support them and help them through their lives, and they will be the support to their husbands. Now, I've talked to my girlfriend many times about, you know, I'm 61. What's going to happen in 20 years? You know, you're only going to be 44 and I'm going to be like 81. Is that going to be a problem? She said no. You know, she, at least hopefully now and forever, says she wants to be there for me when I get old and to help me. I hope I've got a lot of years left in me. So anyway, that's our story. My advice would be, just don't worry that much about age. If you're a guy and you're thinking about looking for a girlfriend in Asia, especially the Philippines, don't worry that much about age. Worry more about compatibility. Worry more about someone who really loves you and cares about you and isn't out for your money. And if you're new, that's not easy, so please be careful. But, you know, look for compatibility. Look for people that you can spend time with and enjoy your time together. So, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it's been helpful for some of you. And I'll be making a new video one of these days. I just do this as a hobby, so, you know, whenever I feel like making a video, that's when I make my next video. But again, comment. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, and I'm happy to help anyone I can. Thanks again, and have a nice day. So join me on this adventure. Let's go.